Hello everyone, you're listening to the Everything Geek podcast. I'm your host Ruari, and joining me today is a very special guest. We have Megan MacPhee. She stars as Emma, aka Ghost Gal, in Yu-Gi-Oh! VRAINS, and she also plays Ghost Gal's AI, a news reporter and some of Akira Zaizen's assistants. She is also best known for playing Julie in Fully Engaged, Melissa in Unbalanced, a web series, Vanessa and Leslie in I Killed My BFF, Stacy in CollegeHumor Originals and Dream Date and Sensitive, a web series. Her behind-the-scenes credits include a writer and producer on Unbalanced, a web series, first assistant director on City Boyz, and a director on theatre school Dropouts and BFF. How are you today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show today, for your first ever Yu-Gi-Oh! Interview as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So getting right into my questions for you, Megan, first of all, can you tell me how you got into acting?
Sure. So I was really actively involved in musical theater as a kid. So I really started when I was young doing community theater. I was really lucky to grow up in a suburb outside of New York City. So I am from New Jersey. And so I was surrounded by the arts as a kid, and I was really fortunate in that way. So I started auditioning for community theater. Then I would commute into New York and audition for things professionally, and it stayed with me into my adulthood.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's amazing. So can you tell me how you were originally cast as Emma, aka Ghost Gal, in Yu-Gi-Oh! VRAINS?
Sure. So I started getting actively involved in voiceover in 2013, and it was mostly commercial work. I had auditioned for other animated projects even when I was much younger, actually. And then through that world, I was recommended to audition for actually a different version of Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc V. And so I met Darren, the director, through that way. And I actually ended up taking his class in animation in New York. And then eventually the role of Emma and Ghost Gal came around, and it was more of a perfect fit for me.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And yeah, I mean, it definitely sounds like it was very useful. I mean, obviously, I've known from other interviews I've done that Darren Dunstan, obviously the director on Yu-Gi-Oh!, has done his own classes for potential actors for his shows. And that's amazing. I think, to be able to, learn from someone that, works so closely on the shows as the director, and of course, he's acted in the shows as well. I mean, that must be amazing, really getting to learn that way.
Yeah, he's a really wonderful director and just a very open and collaborative person. So it was really nice getting to know him in a class setting and then working with him on the show.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's fantastic. Were you a fan of Yu-Gi-Oh! Or aware of Yu-Gi-Oh!'s popularity prior to your casting?
I knew of Yu-Gi-Oh! I knew of the popularity, but I had never seen a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Prior to this. So I knew I also was I do teaching artistry in New York, so I work with a lot of young people. And so I knew of, Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! From all of the kids and trading, would trade cards and everything.
That's amazing. And what is that like, teaching potential artists? What is that like for you?
Teaching artists are popular in New York just because there's so many artists who can, teach drama, dance, musical theater, visual arts to young people. So even if a school sometimes doesn't have a full-time arts teacher, they will work with partner organizations and have teachers come in and specialize in a certain field. So a lot of my work also is with young people and bringing the arts to young people.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's fantastic. What were you told about the character of Emma when you went in to record your first episode on VRAINS?
Well, every time you have an audition, usually you're sent a breakdown, and even for commercial genres or animation, it's usually a breakdown. And with animation, they usually include a picture of the character and then a short description about Emma Ghost Gal. And so as an actor, your job is really to gather that information and, to have your own take on it as well and bring something special to the role that you hope will get you that job.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. And like, I mean, you mentioned obviously, originally, very early on, you were given a picture of Emma, so you obviously got an idea of, what she looked like. I mean, what did you think when you saw the images of the character for the first time? Were you just like, oh, this is definitely a character I really want to play, she looks fantastic?
Yeah, it was. I think it's really awesome to have strong women in a series. And I really saw Emma as this, she speaks her mind. She's strong. She's like a hacker for hire. So I loved that she was, an edgy female character, which when I was growing up, there were some of those, but the representation wasn't there as much. So I think it's really cool if, young girls are watching this series and seeing Emma really take ownership of situations.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh's a great franchise. I mean, obviously, we've had like six Yu-Gi-Oh! Shows, with VRAINS being the sixth. And like, there's so many, brilliant, strong characters, and like, but even among those, like, I mean, brilliant, strong female characters, of course, and even among those, like, Emma's like very different.
Yeah, it's true. She's definitely sneaky and she's definitely out for herself a little bit, which can seem a negative quality, but I think you can turn that around and it can be positive in some ways too.
Oh yeah, absolutely, like for sure. So what was the process like coming up with Emma and Ghost Gal's voice?
It was really, we watch the scene and the animation in the booth and we talk about it, as we're recording. And so it's really like, you're watching her movement, you're watching her facial expressions, and as the episodes go on and you get more recording sessions under your belt, you really feel a connection to the character. So I just wanted to make sure she was being authentically portrayed. And it's a real collaboration with the animation team, the director, the engineer. So I just wanted to make sure I was bringing an authenticity to her.
Absolutely, that's great. And would you say you were given a lot of freedom to come up with her voice, or did the Yu-Gi-Oh! VRAINS crew already have an idea of how they wanted her to be voiced?
Yeah, I would say I was given a lot of freedom. I think that based on my audition, there was qualities in my audition that they said, "Oh, I think this is Emma, this is Ghost Gal," and then we just really took that and went all the way with it. And yeah, I think I've been given a lot of freedom in terms of voicing her character.
How would you like describe your experience playing Emma so far?
I would say it's been really great having a range of seeing like her character growth and her arc. So I've had emotional moments within it, and my relationships with certain characters have grown stronger. So it's been really cool to just see like her character trajectory over the time period when I started working on her.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fantastic. And I mean, you mentioned Emma's, growth alongside other characters. Like, which of the other VRAINS characters do you most enjoy seeing in scenes with Emma, or, acting alongside?
Yeah, well, it's funny because, we're in a vocal booth alone when we're recording. So sometimes some of the other actors may have already had a session. And so I'm hearing their voice in my headphones as I'm responding. And then other times, maybe I'm the first actor to do that scene. So I'm just operating off of direction of what the circumstances are. But I think that she has a lot of fun with Zaizen, Akira. She has fun in those scenes with him. So it's been, and of course, like dueling is always crazy because it's like a lot of vocal power that it requires and a lot of those card names that are really like tongue twisters sometimes. So it's been fun addressing those challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. I can imagine. And of course, as well, like, obviously in anime, unlike other shows, even voiceover, like, of course, you have to match the lip flaps as well, which is another challenge in itself.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, we listen in our headphones for the beeps to come in and then we start speaking. But yeah, you want to be matching up with what has been animated, the flap, and then really like being true to whatever expression is on, animated on her face.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, Emma and Akira's scenes are always a delight. Like, it's always fantastic when those two characters have scenes.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. It's a fun back and forth and thrown the series together.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it definitely must be a strain, doing the duels, because of course, I mean, it's obviously great, as an actor, like, you have so much dialogue in episodes where you're dueling, but you have to, like, shout or yell all of the dialogue, and there's so much of it, so I imagine that can be quite a challenge.
Yeah, it is. Like, we'll go in and it's like, okay, it's a duel day, and you just know, like, okay, I'm gonna need some stamina today in the booth for these scenes.
Yeah, absolutely. At least they let you know that is going to be a duel that you're doing. Like, they could just be like, we could just surprise them. No, actually, we'll let them know in advance.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So, what would you say are the similarities that you see between yourself and Emma, if any?
Well, I always joke around that I'm from New Jersey, so I have a certain edge to me. And I think I have like a little bit of the sassy moments that Emma has. And I like to I'm always constantly working on advocating for myself. Emma probably goes really far in that extreme. But I think that yeah, we have a equal amount of like snarkiness to us that's fun when I'm voicing her to bring to the table.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, a good bit of snarkiness is always good, especially for, a fictional character.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, fantastic. So what would you say are your favorite memories from your time working on VRAINS so far?
Wow, it's funny, but it's really the beginning of working on Brains was really exciting, and uncovering Emma. And I'll always remember that, like, that first scene where she rolls up on the motorcycle and kind of takes her helmet off and like tosses her big grand entrance, and it's always stuck in my memory of that's like my first memory of recording in the booth and being like, "Oh my gosh, wow, I'm voicing this character. This is really cool."
Yeah, absolutely, that's amazing. And I mean, obviously, and like it's her first scene, and she's only in the episode like very briefly, but it's just one of those really cool, scenes that it just sticks in the memory, even if it's like a minute long, even if that. Like it's just such a good scene, like where Akira's giving her a job like in the middle of the road, like at traffic lights. Um, yeah. Of all the places
Yeah,
to get a
exactly.
job.
I know. Yeah, she finds all the places. They're always like outside of a building or in the middle of the street, or it's funny that they're always meeting up in these locations.
Yeah, or in, creepy dark corners.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So what would you say are the biggest challenges you've faced while working on Vrains?
I think probably like sometimes, we're asked to voice other characters, and especially since Emma is like a regular character in Vrains, I get really used to her voicing another character, just like switching that up and finding a different area of my voice, whether it's like a different resonator or looking at that image and really like right away creating an instantaneous character. I think in animation that's always difficult, so that would probably be the biggest challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense because, of course, you've voiced a bunch of other characters on the show as well. Ghost Gal's AI, a news reporter, a bunch of Akira Zaizen's assistants, and I think that's probably one of the challenges as well as, making them sound different so it's not, apparent that they're voiced by, Ghost Gal as well. I mean, Ghost Gal's, actor. I don't mean Ghost Gal herself, of course, but like, you don't want to make it too obvious that they're voiced by the same person.
Yes, exactly. You really have to like tap into a different area of your voice.
Absolutely. So, how would you describe your experience working with the crew of Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrain so far?
Oh yeah, everyone is really great. We everyone's collaborative and open, and sometimes I'll record something and then I won't see everyone for like a month, and then I'll come back in the booth because Ghost Gals sometimes pop in and out of episodes, and then it's like it's nice, we just catch up, and we follow each other on social media, so we'll be like, "Oh, hey, this happened in your life. How's that going?" So we catch up with each other, and it's like a really nice group of people, kind people that are lovely to work with.
Absolutely, that's brilliant. So which scene or scenes have you most enjoyed recording for VRAINS so far?
Gosh, well, yeah, I love that first scene with Akira. That will always be like etched in my memory. And then, some of the duels were fun, like dueling Playmaker or Varys. Those were always opportunity for Emma to really like step into her strength and show people what she's got. So those are fun as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, she's obviously had a bunch of great duels in this show. I mean, Playmaker and Varys, of course, being such iconic duels and really memorable ones.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So, which would you say has been the most challenging role in your career so far out of everything you've done?
Well, I would say, in like, I guess I kind of go to my musical theater career actually, because, with musical theater, it's like you're acting and singing and dancing all at once. You're thinking of like, oh my gosh, there's so much to do, and it's all live. So it's not like you can have a second take like you would with on camera or voiceover work. So I played Penny in Hairspray, at two regional theaters, and I'll never forget like the last number of it's You Can't Stop the Beat in the musical Hairspray, and it's like, you're dancing and singing, and it's like a really long number, and it's really physically challenging. So I would probably say out of my musical theater career, that's something that was challenging.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, theatre, as you mentioned as well, it's live. You don't get like another take. Obviously, one of the like nice things about theatre though is like, unlike voiceover or on camera or anything like that, where like the episodes or whatever, or in the case of a film, they come out so long after. With theatre, like you get a response from the audience right away. Like you can tell if they really like it. So that's one of the nice things about theatre.
Yes, yeah, you miss that when you don't have that kind of mutual energy exchange, like you do in theater. You don't always have that. Well, you don't really have that with on camera or voiceover unless it's like the people you're collaborating with, where they're like, "Oh my gosh, that was such a great take, good job," and then you know that you're on the right track. But other than that, it can be a little less of like that energy exchange.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my final question for you, Megan, do you have any upcoming acting roles or any other projects that you would like to talk about?
Yeah, well, as you know, like this current climate with like COVID and the pandemic, it's sad that a lot of the theaters are closed, and a lot of voiceover actors though are like plugging away, which is amazing because everyone has kind of, every if you didn't have a home studio before this, people are building home studios. If you did, maybe improved your home studio. So I'm still doing lots of voiceover work from home, and then I wrote and produced a web series, which you actually mentioned at the top of this. So if anyone wants to check that out, it's called Unbalanced, a web series. So you can go to the website unbalancedwebseries.com. You can find it on YouTube and check out the web series I wrote and produced.
Absolutely, that's fantastic. Well, that's all of my questions for you today, Megan. It's been a pleasure talking to you on the podcast.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It's been fun.
Yeah, and hopefully we can talk again sometime.
Sounds great. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Thanks again for joining us today, and take care, Megan. Looking forward to
You
talking to you
too.
again. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Time to wrap up today's show. Make sure to check out our podcast links, check out our website.everythinggeekpodcast.com/egp, check out our Facebook page, www.facebook.com/everythinggeekpodcast, check out our YouTube channel, www.youtube.com/user/everythinggeekcast, check us out on Twitter, twitter.com/everythinggeekp, Check us out on Instagram, instagram.com/official everythinggeekpodcast. Email us at the following email, everythinggeekpodcast@gmail.com. Check out my Instagram, www.instagram.com/RoryWilliamson. Check out Megan MacPhee's website, www.meganmacphee.com, and check out channel 1138 where we broadcast live from, www.channel1138.com. Geek set, everyone.
It was just at the beginning. I think I started doing voiceovers for them in their second season, where, the full cast had already been cast, and I was being pulled on to do a couple of stray voices here and there, guest girl characters, and
Pokemon and Digimon and like all of this stuff at the same time. And eventually, I remember there was definitely a point where I kind of went full sail Pokemon, and like I would go to the card game tournaments, and like I would go and I would win badges. Like I was very